What's up, everybody? It's time for another edition of Jeff and Jeff on Orange Bloods Live. I'm Jeff Ketchum. That is Jeff Bowerman of Groggy Dog. This video brought to you by the amazing guys at Groggy Dog, guys and gals. They got a bunch of people at Groggy Dog working to make sure that your orders, if you need apparel, team apparel, school apparel, you name it, if you need a job done, they've got artists to work for you. They're ready to work side by side to make sure that you never have to look for anybody else again to get any of your orders done. Go to the website, check out what they do, who they are. They're Orange Bloods, Texas Longhorns through and through. You can see that with Jeff right next to it. It means something that they're affiliated and able to be out in front of Texas fans. And so give them their business and let them know that you're watching the videos. Jeff, Longhorns beat Vanderbilt last week. They did. Yes. I think back to what we talked about a week ago. Some stuff happened, some stuff didn't happen, and I think maybe there will be a lot of crossover from what we want to talk about this week's kind of 5 things starting next week against Florida, all the way through the rest of the regular season against A&M in College Station. What needs to happen, what we're looking for to happen, I think is a really interesting conversation. I think back last week, Quinn Ewers with 1 and 2 on the talking points of the video that we did, and yet I feel like I'm going to give you the first at bat on this, and it could be very easy if we're talking about things that need to be seen, things that need to happen, things to watch for. Are you making quarterback at number 1? If you don't, I'm going to take quarterback at number 2.
No, I'm gonna let you take QB. I'm gonna fill the lead spot here. I'm gonna go Sark. Because, and again, I'm going to cite sources, right? Orange Bloods Live, House Divided, Fuller Friends. I
like that, yes.
What y'all been talking about all week, but let's get out of the damn phone booth. Stretch it out. Again, is Quinn limited physically? But there are still tools in the toolbox that we can use to stretch the field, spread out the offense, because offensively, the process isn't going where it stands right now. 8 games into the season isn't gonna get Texas a national championship trophy. And to me, the ability, the talent is there. And if Quinn's hurt, well, maybe you go another direction there. That's not.
Well, that is the conversation.
Well, that's not. Again, Quinn's the guy. Starts sticking with him. Here's my point. But if he's physically limited to where he can't push it down the field, use the middle field, and get out of the damn phone booth, well then you know what? We've got to do what you got to do. So my point is, my number 1 this week, where we're sitting here bye week, is let's figure out a way to get that offense humming again, like it was the first half of Michigan, because that's going to need to happen for Texas. The defense is there, but offensively, the pace has to pick up. It's the only way it happens.
How much of this is Texas is struggling a little bit offensively? And I think have been. But how much of this is simply a byproduct of in the last 3 weeks they played Oklahoma, which is a really good defense.
Solid. Yeah.
Georgia, which had been kind of meandering this season on defense until it played Texas.
Yeah.
And was the best version of Georgia that you could see. And then Vanderbilt was okay. But no, they certainly I'll be honest. I don't mean to ask an unintended rhetorical question, because that's what this could be.
Yeah.
I don't know quite how I feel about where the Texas offense is. Do you give some credit to the fact that they're in the middle of their SEC schedule? And does that mean that the rest of the way the real expectation should be that Texas is just okay on offense?
Here's my thing. The what we watched in the second half of the Vanderbilt game, and for a lot of the last 3 or 4 weeks, is this the way I would describe? I feel like I'm watching Dilfer and the Baltimore Ravens, game manager type situation. Try not to. Yes, you have an outstanding defense. Let's not turn it over. That ain't gonna work. That is not gonna. It might Mississippi State. It might beat an AVG Vanderbilt defense, but yes, they are solid defenses, but to me, there's just too much there for Texas not to be pushing pace, pushing the tempo, pushing the ball. Now, one thing I will say, a factor that I thought about it this week, because Chad used the line on the post-game show after the Vandy game was spun to the finish. That was kind of the takeaway. And then that's kind of how I felt. It was just like an okay hamburger. It was kind of dry, still a hamburger, still a win.
The worst hamburger in the world is still a hamburger.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. There's another analogy you can make, but I'm not going, but like, that's kind of how I felt.
Another analogy, Jeff. Yes, there is.
Yes, that's kind of how I felt Saturday night. Yeah, we're going. But I felt that Saturday night, and then the conversation this week, I still feel like that. It's man, it's my thing. Okay, yeah, unsatisfied, but the run game, like find 10 plays that you do really, really well. Find
10 run plays that they do really well.
Okay, that might be the
2.
Yeah. 2. I mean, I think about my son, Crownover Middle School, Cowboys, their 7th grade team. There's about 3 run plays that they run well. You know what? And they run them. And then what happens is that allows them to hit the big pass. So, you know what? Jaden Blue, Wessner, Gibson, right? Niblet, hell, let's run a jet sweep with Wingo. You know what I mean? Find 4 or 5 run. Let's run those well. Let's figure that out. And then let's open it up. So, again, my number one is, again, credit to you guys. Let's have the damn phone booth. Let's push it. Let's find some explosives, please.
Well, and I think, to your point with Sark, this is 4th year at Texas. We've got a growing sample size to kind of view our history with him in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I think, it's not an insult to say he's generally viewed as an amazing opening script guy.
First 20 plays.
Yep. And there's a reason why for the season up until the last couple of weeks, they've been the best first quarter team in the country. It always, and the Michigan game is probably the best example. They were so well scripted in that game that it didn't even matter what down and distance was. That 3rd and 15, okay, well, we've got to play for that.
Cam Williams got a penalty? Hold on, we're good.
Exactly. In the second half, and now this really goes back to the first season when they fired in that 6-game losing streak. But inside a losing streak, bunch of double-digit leads in the second half of games that high-flying offenses produced, and then later down the stretch, the offense just isn't able to pick up steam or maintain the head of steam that it creates. It does we've seen it under Sark that the first half is usually better than the second half. Now, it's not always that way. We can point to other games. The Alabama game last year's a really good example of finished stronger than they started. So it's not like an ironclad rule, but I do think, generally speaking, that, we've seen it happen. And I think in these last games, you can't not play well in the second half when you go on the road in Fayetteville or when you go on the road in College Station.
Florida and Kentucky. I mean, you're gonna need 4
No,
quarters.
they can dick their way around in those games. I think that the concerning thing about Florida and Kentucky, because I think there's a 90% or better chance that they win both of those games. I just think they're better. We're talking about, for me, 2 of the real bottom half of the teams in the conference. They could get Texas tough games.
Yeah.
But I would be shocked if Texas lost to one of those teams at home. It's more about establishing a level of play that will have success in the playoffs.
Yes.
And I think that the one thing that's been turning about October is even when Texas blew out Oklahoma, I don't think there was a sense, well, hey, when we get to the second or almost into last weekend in December, depending on when you're scheduled to play, that will work against pick a team, right? I don't think anybody thought that wins us a playoff game in December or January. Certainly that wasn't the case against Georgia. I think certainly that was the case last week against Vanderbilt. What we'd like to see in those games that I don't think have a ton of jeopardy in them. You'd like to see Texas play at a level. When it's over with, they like a top 5 team because they punish a team that shouldn't really be on the same field as them. That's what we want to see, and that's what I think it's up to Sark to get that offense flying closer to a nationally elite unit than what we've seen from them in the last month. The number 2 thing, and we don't have to spend a ton of time on this, but you gave it to me. I'm taking it.
Okay. Quinn.
We need Quinn Ewers to play his best brand of football. If Texas is going to 11-1 and play in an SEC championship game and definitively be in the playoffs and potentially, if they're not the conference champion, be in a position to not have to go on the road in that first weekend, Quinn's got to be great. And in 8 of the last 12 quarters, he's been statistically worst quarterback in college football.
Yeah, I think we're sharing the QBR for those quarters. Yeah, it was.
If you look at the numbers by quarter, he had 4 quarters out of 12 where he's been Heisman level.
Yeah.
The problem is his bad quarters, they're not average, which you can live with.
Yeah.
You can live with, well, he didn't throw a touchdown pass in the third quarter, but he was 7 of 9 for 85 yards. And yeah, that's perfectly fine. What you don't want are these quarters where, especially when they're strung together consecutively, because that's what happened a week ago. Yeah. Last week, he was 6 of 12, or maybe it was, I can't even remember, but I want to say 3 of 12, 3 or 14, or 6 of 12, 6 of 14,
second half,
75 yards, an interception. And that was in the second half. There were no touchdown passes. They didn't break 40 yards passing in any quarter, which that means over the course of a game, somewhere between 150 and 160 at best. So, a week ago, Texas was on pace over the course of a game in just the second half to have about 150 yards passing. That's David McWilliams' era of football.
Wow, David McWilliams on the bingo card today.
Remember back in the days when quarterbacks only threw for 150 yards? So, I don't need Quinn to win the Heisman. That's a conversation that –
yeah.
But I would like to see the good version of Quinn, the one that we know exists, certainly existed last season, certainly existed at the beginning of this season. If they can get him back to a guy who is consistently one of the 15 or 20 best quarterbacks in the country, the rest of this team is really good.
And they'll follow his lead. That
gives you a chance to legitimately compete for a national championship. Not Quinn in the stratosphere, which would be nice.
Yeah.
But if Quinn is if there are no more peaks and valleys and there's just
consistent,
really solid play.
What you can bank on.
Which is what we had a year ago in Quinn.
Yeah, that's a good point, especially second half of the season.
What you could bank on for Quinn a year ago was that highs weren't crazy high, but his lows were a 150 quarterback rating, which, that's kind of – his lows were basically what Sam Ehlinger did for a career.
True.
I mean, you're playing at that level, and if that's as bad as you're going to get, that's pretty good.
Especially with this defense, yeah.
The problem is this year, in the last 12 quarters, Quinn's really fallen down, and he's actually below the quarterback efficiency rating that he had him for a year ago. And we think he's better than he was a year ago, but we haven't seen it since he's come back from the injury. No, I won't belabor the point. I'm just going to say this team will go as far as Quinn Ewers takes it, unless he gets hurt and then Arch has to take the reins. But barring an injury, this is Quinn Ewers' show, and they need him to perform, or this season will finish as a disappointment, I think. And that's really hard to grasp and wrap your head around, considering just a couple of weeks ago they're undefeated, the number 1 team in the country, and now it feels like more is needed, and it is. Number 3 for you, Mr. Bowerman. What?
Johnny McDonald. Inject him into my veins.
Really? That's your number 3?
Again, I'm sitting there. There's probably a reaction to watching the game Saturday and thinking about it.
Baby, but I'm with you.
I don't know. I found it that was my take. Okay, they sputtered to finish. It was unsatisfying. Offense struggled, but dang, Jelani McDonald, he is he gets downhill. He plays violent. He makes a difference. He makes a difference. That was on the top of my list. I mean, get him on the field, make him play, especially with Williams out and McKill limited. Let's see what he can do.
Jeff, believe it or not, you've tapped into what my number 4 is.
Okay, so I just jumped the shark. I went early.
My answer. It's one of those where I can't tell if on Family Feud my number 4 would technically be what you just said, but I kind of feel like on Family Feud, your answer would be Jelani McDonald. And so either it would be Jelani McDonald, but sometimes someone will answer a question and then give them credit for it. And it's like, well, that's not quite what he said, but okay. That's the territory I'm in.
Okay.
It's young players in general. It is Jelani McDonald, but it's also Colin Simmons. It's also Ryan Wingo. It is also Leo. But it's yes, it is. There's a group of first, and Kobe Black is another. Ooh. He basically replaced Gavin Holmes as the third corner on Saturday. And we would be talking about him probably in this video before this, had that pick 6 in Nashville stood. Yeah. And it would have been, look, oh my God, Kobe Black got in the game and borderline 5-star talent, who I had as a 5-star, gets a pick 6 and and by the same token, Collins hasn't done anything in the last 2 weeks.
Freshman Wall?
Lit or yeah. I think the cool thing about Fresh Wall is it represents almost anything.
Yeah.
If a freshman stops contributing a high level for any reasons at all, we just call it the freshman wall.
Yeah.
And so you're right. I don't know exactly what it is, but 2 straight games, he's had performances that, quite frankly, next year you won't give him a free pass on.
Yeah.
As a freshman, you always will shrug your shoulders and say, well, Mama always said there'd be days like this.
But I like where you're taking this, though. Yeah, Jelani McDonald is indicative of the bigger
I'm giving it GH.
Yeah.
Because McDonald's in the group of players that I'm thinking about. It's every first or second year player on this Texas team that has the capacity in the last 4 weeks of the season
to be a difference maker,
to take it up a notch.
Yeah.
And I thought you saw it last week with McDonald, which is why he's probably the poster child for kind of the conversation that we're having. A guy that kind of had a minimal role, but here we are now going down the stretch of the season. And not only might he be able to have a real meaningful impact, I thought he looked last week as good as Derek Woods has looked at any point this season. I thought he looked as well. You know, Makuba's had some big plays.
Yeah.
But Makuba will disappear at times. And then he has popped up against Michigan and Georgia with interceptions.
True.
So you're like, well, we can't nitpick the guy because making big plays in the big games. But there have also been weeks where he's not quite as active. The thing that you would say about McDonald is it looked like he's active everywhere.
Yeah.
Suddenly is a bigger, faster, more athletic guy is flying to the football. And I came away from last week.
Well, and here's the thing, too, to continue with number 4 and young players. And that it's encouraging to see that circumstances dictated that young players were on the field. But you know what? Those young players were ready.
Yeah.
Right? That was their chance. And they stepped in. And now when you turn on the tape and you're getting ready here for the stretch run and hopefully the football playoff, you can't keep them off the field. Right? If you're going to put your best 11 out there or your best situational, right, it's going to be McDonald. It's going to be Black. It's going to be Sims. On the offensive side, it's going to be Wingo. You know, it's going to be Moore. So that's encouraging. And kind of where we're at 8 games in, I'm encouraged with the fact that the coaching staff had them developed and ready to compete at a high level. And now let's see what we can do with the bye week and then, you know, obviously with the meat of the SEC schedule coming up.
I would even add a guy like DeAndre Moore.
Yeah.
Because he's still a very young player that has the capacity to hit consistently high. Last week he has 97 yards and 2 touchdowns, but we've seen him follow that up with weeks where his numbers are way below that.
Yeah.
What if I told you, hey, we're going to get Bond back, and Wingo's going to play more, but if I told you that over the next 4 weeks, DeAndre Moore had somewhere between 250 and 300 yards receiving combined.
Yeah.
Along with 2 or 3 touchdowns. Like, oh, yeah. Deal, right? If it's deal or no deal.
Where do I sign? Yeah.
Let's put that in the bank, knowing that I've also got Bond. I've also got Helm. I've also got these other receivers. What would it be like to have some absolute guaranteed money in the bank at the wide receiver position? I do think that's one of the things that's missing in the offense right now one guy has this, and the next week he barely has a role. You look at Wingo; he's averaging about 20 yards a game in the last weeks.
You want some consistency, some dependability, some.
And I think the quarterback changes probably had a little bit to do with that, because early in the season it was clear that Matthew Golden was a Quinn guy.
Yeah.
I was like, why is Matthew Golden starting? And then you realize, because he's got good chemistry with the starting quarterback. That sounds like it matters.
Yes, sir.
And then Arch got in the game, and it was like, okay, it makes sense. He's been mostly working out with the twos. So you can see where he's got a relationship with John J. Cook that might be better than Quinn Ewers. You can see where maybe he's done more with Ryan Wingo. There's a better feeling there for getting the ball to Wingo down the field. Then they switch again, and we're not getting the best version of Quinn.
No.
And I think the wide receiver unit just hasn't quite been utilized like it can be. So I think that there are a lot of guys, not just Ryan Wingo. I think if we were to make a list, there would be 15 guys on it. But if those guys, if a third of those 15 do what Jelani McDonald did last week, but then able to do it consistently, that is the tide that I think has a chance to lift this Texas large boat.
Yes.
All right, give me the final one, the final thing for the final 4 games in a bye week that we're looking for to finish out this season.
Clean up the self-inflicted wounds.
I can't believe it took us this long.
Well, and again, that's a credit to Texas, though, that they're able to have, that there's that much kind of meat on the bone, that much potential in that.
You could have made a case it's number one.
You could have, because when you circle back to what we felt after that Vandy game, I mean, I saw a breakdown. I know y'all were doing one and a couple others, but I saw a breakdown about every single penalty and like what the effect. And I'm like, God dang, it really could have been 42-10.
That's what I'm saying. If you had come in here and said, Jeff, I hate sloppy football. I hate penalties. Clean the mess up. No more spills on aisle 7. Let's tighten up the ship a little bit. I would have been like, I get it.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. Again, that's tough. It's tough to coach that, but like some of that, Williams, like, do you sit him? I don't know. I mean, Hudson had been great in his place, but there's got.
Could you sneak a Brendan Baker? In there for a few plays
and see
when that happens to say, dude, has to be consequences. If this, and I thought Alex though was interesting. Cam graded out great.
I know
on every play.
Every time I see Alex,
he's terrible on.
Yes. I don't know, but that's going to cost them. I mean, against Mississippi State, Vanderbilt.
But I don't know there's a better alternative than 4 out of 5 plays a guy is great. On that 5th play, he's something less than that, and at times quite worse than that. We got to just remember Cam Williams is a first-year starter too. And
how much football is at that
maybe
level.
he rightfully belongs in kind of pile of players I was talking about at number 4. He's a third-year guy. I wouldn't include like that, but I think we take for granted that he's basically started 9 games.
I would say 9, 10 games, And those a year ago, they're going to catch up to I don't think you're right. I'll go back to I don't think so against Kentucky or Florida, but Fayetteville, College Station. I mean, that's a difference.
You know who's going to get a helping heap of in Fayetteville? Landon Jackson.
Yes.
Lance Jackson's brother.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Has emerged. I saw.
He's a player, man. Yeah, he causes some problems.
Cody had him listed as a consensus mock draft 2nd-round pick at this point in the season.
Okay.
So, I mean, he's one of the best edge players in the SEC.
Ooh, buckle up.
And I think and he's more of a strong side guy than he is just a Colin Simmons speed demon.
Yeah.
So I think the matchup in Arkansas is to line him up against Cam Williams. And I think that could be a game that defines Cam Williams' season. If, depending on what else happens in that game, if he can maintain and slow down Landon Jackson significantly, then it may be the game where we go, Cam Williams really had a moment tonight.
Yeah. That's what he'll need to get back into that first round conversation. I agree with what y'all all week. I think he has kind of pushed himself down the draft board.
His bad plays have been bad, but he's still play out at a really high level. It's how much can you live with?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, there's some conversations. Sark.
There's a part of me though that still thinks the guy it's not getting beat physically. It's dude, your mental errors are hurting the team. They can't happen. And if they continue to happen, there has to be jeopardy. There has to be something that causes a guy through fear feel like if I don't get better, there's consequences. Because we're at a point now, he's 11 penalties in 8 games.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want to be. I had somebody. This is an old reference, but old Dallas Cowboy fans will know this reference, and they'll cringe when words come out of my mouth. I had someone this week ask me if he's the Texas version of Phil Posderick, and it still makes me cringe. You really have to be a Cowboys fan to go back to
to get that one.
85, 86.
Yeah,
almost 40 years ago when number 66 was just the bane of every Dallas Cowboy fan in existence because he did exactly what we're watching from Cam Williams. He just did it at guard, but it was 3 penalties a game. It was like if you saw a yellow flag on the field, you thought, no, don't say 66. Don't say 66. Don't say 66.
We're kind of like that. We might be there.
And then when it wasn't him, it was like, okay, well, he didn't get I wish he would have held because he didn't, and Lawrence Taylor broke Danny White's leg or something like that. So it's just one of these things where Cam is a bit of a caricature at this point. It's the wrong kind of running joke. I'm with you.
Let's get fixed.
Clean it up. All right, I gotta go.
Me too.
Jeff, like, comment, subscribe, and more than anything, go to Groggy Dog. Go to the website, check it out. Don't let us pique your interest and let the website bring it home, and just know that customer service and making sure that you're 1,000% satisfied and not just 99.9 is a big part of the Groggy Dog way. It's their code, if you will, and let them put it to test for you. You won't be disappointed. For Jeff Ketchum, for Jeff Bowerman, this has been Jeff. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you next week. Back when games begin in Florida Go Town. And oh, by the way, I will make my triumphant return with family in tow
at DKR
for the first time in quite a while. So all kinds of things to look forward to in the coming days and weeks. You guys take care.